All the experiences that taught me, all the mistakes I made have gone into creating a body of wisdom that I can share. Parents are both alcoholics. We grew up in a family that we loved each other, but we also were very destructive with one another. I ended up entering a 90-day drug and alcohol recovery facility. And that was the beginning of a process of finding my way into the individual that sits here with you right now. And I relapsed for 2 weeks. And it was the worst experience that I had probably in my entire life. It was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. First time in my life that I've ever experienced suicide. I can look back on it now, and it was such a spiritual experience because I had a choice. I could have pulled the trigger. I made the mistake of thinking that it didn't apply to me because I was special. No, you're not. Using drugs and alcohol when you don't have any, you're going to manipulate to get them. And that in there lies the damage you do to so many people. It's being honest and truthful and acknowledging and then accepting. And then when is possible, go and make an amends, say you're sorry. The freedom comes when you go and man up.
Welcome, dear listeners, to an episode from the Oliver Schirach Show, where I am going out and talk with people about their journeys, their wisdom, their knowledge, a lot of times on spirituality, mysticism, or the supernatural in any way. And today I have Thomas LaGrave. Tom is a former Navy SEAL and youth social worker that helped several thousand youths to transit into adulthood. In this first episode, you get to know who is Tom, how was his path from teenager to military, why did he end up as a medical in the Navy SEALs, why was he kicked out, and how did this transition to the civil world change his life, how he then ended up being a youth social worker, how it helped him to let go and come in terms with his past, move forward and stop being an alcoholic for 32 years, and then relapse, which brought him into depression and suicide for a short time. That's 5 years ago, and now he shares his journey, a little bit of spirituality, a little bit of mysticality on being a Navy SEALs and a youth social worker. It was very interesting for me to have this intro talk with him. We are already planning for part 2, which will go a bit deeper into his book and into a rite of passage. But if you want to know who this guy is, the icebreaker, getting underneath his skin, that's the episode. So welcome to Tom. And I'm here today with Tom. I was reached out, I think, less than a week ago. I saw some emails, and here we are. That was a fast booking and planning. You have a little time limit of 1 hour, which for the people that listen regularly to my podcast know that's kind of like the shorter end of my talks. But we'll manage it, and we'll see how the energy flows. And if needed, we do part 2, 3, whatever it's needed. Tom has a background as a Navy SEALs, originally wanting to be a doctor in the military and then going down deep underwater, as I saw, taking some trauma and addiction from teenage years into the military, but we will hear about that, which caused him then to change his trajectory in life, working with teens. I think up to 20, 21 years is now the age you like to work with. And you're 65, so you should be pensioned soon. As we can see on the video, you live in the US. What was it?
Yeah,
but why
all
did
the
I
way
get that?
in California.
So it's morning for you. It's after work for me.
Yep.
It's a second hot day in mid of August. It was 2 cold weeks. I'm sweating here. And you're nicely dressed, as I can see, beautifully. And you are also a book author of 2 books.
Yes.
And you have a legacy. And so there's a lot to talk about.
Yep.
And I already informed Tom that I'm more on the spiritual, mystical part, near-death experiences, outer body, ancient history, Aztecs, Vikings, spirituality, from depression to expression. These are the talks I'm normally into it. The podcast yet started as creativity, innovation, how to be better there. So I have a little bit of business interviews as well. So let's see how we go around.
Let's navigate this.
We navigate it with my curiosity, my intuition, and you also talk about these things. So I think we are good. We are combining two worlds here. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome. It's a pleasure. So how would you describe yourself in 3 words? And what would these 3 words be, and why do you choose those?
Happy, grounded individual.
And why those?
As you had said, I'm on the threshold of retirement. I've spent my entire life working so that I could get to that back end. It's my second childhood. First childhood was when I was born, and now I get to relive a new childhood.
Okay, so happy, grounded individual is because you're so close to pensioning.
I'm actually in pension right now.
You're in pension?
Yes.
But you're promoting your book and your work.
Yes, I am. And I still have, I'm a clinical therapist. And so I still have a private practice of a couple of folks, still keep that knowledge base going. But then it gives me a lot of time to be able to volunteer in places where my skill set can be best utilized, because especially in this time in America, the support systems for the civilian population are non-existent. And for people to actually have the ability to get someone like me, it's difficult.
Yeah.
So I get to be happily grounded, and as an individual going into various domains. I work with homeless folks. I still work with youth. And it's this stage in my life where I can volunteer and give my knowledge.
So you're in the stage of life where you can give back to what you received before.
Yes.
That's nice. That's kind of like wisdom, right?
It's what you get to bring. All the experiences that taught me, all the mistakes I made have gone into creating now a body of wisdom that I can share.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is wisdom for you, if I just go down that rat hole?
You know what? Wisdom is, there's intelligence. There are a bunch of smart people that aren't very wise. Wisdom to me is understanding the larger picture, the big picture, the world, what's beyond the world, the universe, what's beyond the universe. I'm coming to that time where it's the first time in my life I've thought about, well, sooner than later, I'm going to be passing on. And when I do, what's there? And that just intrigues me. I am not ready to check out right now, but when it's time, I'm looking forward to seeing what's there.
There's so many avenues I can go down. That's dangerous. So when I look at these 3 words, happy, grounded individual, how would you have defined yourself as a 14, 15-year-old?
Insecure, neurotic individual.
Okay. And that's because I've listened to the podcast at 14. That's when you started experimenting.
Yes.
Which brought down a cascade of events, which brought you where you are now.
My transition from the very first time I tried a drink or a drug, it was a 15-year evolution before I destroyed myself utterly.
Yeah. And that's because of the insecurity, or...
You know what? The insecurity at that stage was what all youth that I still work with, you are trying to come to terms with leaving the home and going from adolescence to adulthood. And in our society, we don't have something put into place for that to take our young people and guide them. And at that stage, I didn't have that either. And what I did was I found it actually when I left home and entered the military. that was the first time where I began to understand that you're responsible for yourself, that life is not easy. You have to be on time. And all of those things, I could now see where my father was telling me I really didn't want to listen, to the military telling me, and if you don't listen, they restrict you and take your money.
Uh, So how did you grow up? I heard in the other podcast you have two brothers. Do you have
Yeah.
also sisters, or just the two brothers?
I have one sister, she's developmentally disabled. And that
Oh.
really is the key element for myself and our family. Due to her disability, we were a very close family, very protective of her. And that has gone still to this day. I am, I just talked to her last night. We stay in contact. And there was, without her, I don't know what the path would have been for me. Because of her, it grounded me in having an empathy for others. I could see that she needed help because she was truly helpless. And we circled around her and made her life fulfilling. And in doing that, as you said, I'm a former Navy SEAL. You know what? The job that I was tasked with is not to make friends. And that dichotomy of how that plays out was, with my sister, it was a good thing because it helped me understand how to see other people and treat them well. And then in the military, that reversed itself because you're looking to take life with extreme prejudice. That's what everybody in the military does. And you have to live with those actions. And when you are somebody that feels empathy for others and you got to shut that off, it becomes confusing. And therein lies my use of drugs and alcohol so that I could forget and get away from that.
Wow. Yeah, there's a very tight woven net I can see with emotions and
Yes.
ideation and looking at life. So when you say you had your sister, which was disabled, and you created this empathy, so was it for the whole family? They all grew
Yes.
around that and they become more
Yes.
empathic. But did you and your brothers lack something? Did you feel like you're overseen then because everyone looked at your sister?
Well, no, here's the thing is, and this is only for me and my family. My parents are both alcoholics.
Oh,
We grew up in a family that we loved each other, but we also were very destructive with one another. And so my parents, they couldn't communicate with each other. They'd get drunk and, go into separate corners after screaming at each other. So, you grow up in that kind of family, and then you're supposed to be protective of your sister and kind and compassionate. It gets confusing.
yeah, I can see. Of course, my listeners don't know your backstory; they haven't
Sure.
listened. But I can see the communication part here. Also, the work you did afterwards with the youth
Yeah.
and the military. How do I bring that together in good questions? Let me ask you some more icebreaker and see if that broadens the picture.
Absolutely.
If you're a new color in a coloring set, like pencils or watercolor, whatever it is, what kind of color would you be and why would you choose that color?
Evergreen.
Evergreen. Oh.
Yeah.
And why?
Evergreen that's to me, earth and grounded in life. It's, evergreens are evergreen, winter and summer, they're still green. And that color it has on two edges, it has yellow that merges to that kind of green. It has a fire orange that also merges from the other side. For me, the blues and the purples don't meet it the way the yellows and the oranges merge with evergreen.
So you're kind of like on the spectrum of this yellow, green, red.
Yes.
And what does the red, green, and yellow symbolize for you?
Fall. It's
Fall.
my favorite favorite time of the year. It gets darker earlier again, and I like dark. I like for a, a long night and a short day, and
Oh,
all of that is wrapped around evergreen.
oh, you would be perfect in Scandinavia, I can tell you. The
Yeah,
winters can be very short, and the
yeah,
days. I'm more the opposite. I love the long days. I love the sun. So I love the outdoors, water,
yeah,
mountains. It's super, but I can see the earth and grounded. So I can see like there's this connection to earth, groundedness, empathy, people, communication. So okay, let's then go down the road. So the people which listen and they're like, okay, what are they talking about? Youth work and
yep,
military. Um, y- in the other podcast I listened, at 14 you started experimenting with
yep,
alcohol. 15 you said you were addicted without
yes,
knowing, and so you took the addiction to military.
yep.
In one episode, you said your father kicked you out because he found you drunk. You and your
Ah, I was
brother
getting
are
high with
on.
my younger brother.
Okay, so you were kicked out. Like, don't come back.
Don't come back. And I was at that time 18.
And I was like, okay, I go for military. I go for the medical part or the whatever it was.
Exactly. So if I'm not going back to his house, and I'm not going back, and I'm not going to go live on the street. So my option was, and this was in 1977. This is 4 years after Vietnam ended, and nobody in America wanted to go in the military. So when I walked in with a recruiter's office, they were like, "What do you want?" I said,
Choose.
"I want in right now. I want to. I want to be medical, and I want in now." And 2 weeks later, I was in the military, shaved head, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, asking myself, "What the hell did I just do?"
Wow. And before you did that move, what did you envision doing? I mean, being
In the
18. So you
military?
no, I mean around 18, you have already some ideas.
No,
Many people. What we
I
would do in life.
I wanted to go to school to be a doctor. That's what I was going to begin the process of doing. And in the process of putting out all of the requests for various schools, I had that incident with my father where he's like, "No, this is not going to," because he it had been going on for years. He knew, but at this point, when I was getting my younger brother high, that was a line too far for him.
Yeah.
And so out the door I went. All the dreams, everything that I thought I could be that on that moment were no longer possible. But through the military, I was given the opportunity to pursue and became what's called a Navy hospital corpsman.
So it was still in the Navy hospital. And
Yes.
and this idea of military, how did that come? What intuition? Was it a voice? Was it a feeling? Was it a poster? A sign? How did you get there?
It was a place where there was it, it was a job as I no one in my family had ever gone in the military, but I knew the military was something that was you could be proud of. And at that time, what was I going to do? Go start living on friends' couches with their parents? And, you know, that my parents raised me to be functional at 18. And when I was thrown out of the house, it was expected throughout all the years by my parents saying, "You will be ready. This is what you need to do." And that education was given to me. So when I saw what my options were, there was a negative path of dishonor, and there was a positive path with honor. And the military presented itself knowing full well that nobody wanted in at that time, and I could get in quickly and get what I wanted, and I did. That's how it played out.
Okay, so it was more like a head thing. It was not like a heart or belly or
It was
coincidence.
an intellectual. It was, yeah, let's in that time, you're out of the house and you're looking around, or you're going to sleep under a shrub. Your heart is not the wisest choice to look at the world to figure out what you want to do with it. You look at it within yourself. You use your mind and see what your skills are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And when you make the move, which I did with the military. I made sure I had safeties put in place. I had a trade. I could get a job after my military career with the medical profession and pursue it. I would have originally liked to have gone to school and got it in that pursuit. But once in the military and completion, I had been trained. I could then go back to school and it would be on my own dime.
Okay. And what was the plan? Stay in military 5 years, 20 years?
And when I first got in, I was just going to stay one tour, 4 years.
Oh. And when I hear Navy SEALs, I'm Swiss, and
Yeah.
I was doing anti-terror. So I was a
Yeah.
grenadier in
Yeah.
Switzerland. And the year before me, I think the SEALs came to Switzerland to, show fighting
Sure.
and training, also the English. But so were you a very physical person, like a very athletic person? That's what I
Yeah.
see in my head.
Yeah. In high school, I played sports, all, baseball, football, basketball. I was very athletic, so that when that opportunity, because I went in not knowing what a SEAL is. There was, again, no one in my family had ever gone. I had no knowledge. And when I got into boot camp, they said in the 3rd week, you can go to a screening test to become a Navy SEAL. And I'm like, well, what's that? And so I saw a picture of a cargo net that's on the obstacle course. It's a 50-foot cargo net. And that's the only thing I saw. And I want to go do that. So I went and took the screening test and I passed it. And the maneuvering was you finished boot camp, and then you had to go to A school to get your training in medical. So I left boot camp, went to A school. After A school, I was now a trained hospital corpsman. I went to what is called basic underwater demolition SEAL training. And that's when it all hit the fan.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I can see your path as well. In Switzerland, you have to do military. In Denmark, you pull a number and then you have to, or you don't. Because there's a lot of people which volunteer in Denmark, for example.
Sure.
In Switzerland, is when you have back problems, knee, whatever, mental issues, you don't have to do the service. And I was also like, I passed all the things, and they even talked about me in the sport passing test, apparently. And I was like, okay, I didn't feel I was doing so great, but apparently where I did the screening,
Yeah.
so they also put like, you choose. I didn't know anything about parachute, otherwise I would have taken that. Because challenge, right? I was challenge, like
I love the challenge.
Love the challenge. But then I went in the course and I do anti-territory. There was the tank grenadiers as well. There was like a little bit more physical than us. But anti-terror was like infiltration, planning. If there's terrorist attack, you look at the state buildings and, you get all these things.
Yes, you do.
And the martial arts and all kind of rifles, pump actions. I had all of that. But after the 4 months, in Switzerland, it's 4 months, and then you have to repeat. If you don't do it professionally, right? You can also do it professionally. Right. And after the 4 months were over, I'm like, I'm done with it. So the mental part of me was like, no way. The challenge of, the physical, learning all these things, that was interesting. And I had no idea either until I was there. I didn't want to be where everyone else is. I didn't want to do what 60% do. So I can see that. Now, how did this medical and SEAL work together?
You got it. That's a good question. Because remember the empathy with my sister?
Yeah, the medical, right?
Yeah. And so it fit well for a long time, and then it didn't.
So, was that out? Oh, you were in service outside somewhere, not Afghanistan, but did you have to go somewhere, Africa or somewhere?
You know what? I was in Africa and Beirut. I was in the Caribbean. All of these places that at that time we weren't at war, but you know what? We were at war. We always are. And so I am being tasked with traveling and doing a job. And again, as the medic, that's I was the odd individual because in Vietnam, the hospital corpsmen were not allowed to have weapons because of the Geneva Convention. And so that had been altered once Vietnam was over, because I was big guy. So I had the M60, which was the biggest weapon because of I could carry it. And so I'm also the medic, and I was able to function really well
Wow.
doing both of those jobs. And over time, after experiences began to become memories that I didn't want to have, and then I'm chasing them away with alcohol and marijuana. And in the military, the alcohol would have been all right, but the marijuana was not. And
Mm.
so over time, in the ninth year, 6 months, I was given a urinalysis and I failed, and that was the end. So my military career went, because that first 4 years I wanted to do. After that, I loved the job. I loved doing what I was doing. I wanted to do it for a career. So I reenlisted, and like I said, just short of 10 years, I got discharged from drug use from SEAL Team 1, and my life cratered.
Okay, SEAL Team 1 sounds like that's the top of the SEALs, or?
There at that time, there were UDTs at that time. So there was 2 SEAL teams, 1 and 2, and there was UDT 11 and 12 and UDT 21 and 22, East Coast, West Coast.
That's East Coast against West Coast. That's what we always hear here in Europe. That's like the rappers and
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
So it's also in military.
It's 2 different worlds.
Yeah, America's bigger than Europe, so we have a lot of countries where you have states.
I've spent a lot of time in Europe, so you know what? I love Europe. Yeah.
Oh,
Not a
so where
problem.
have you been? A lot in Germany, or?
I took a train from Istanbul to Scotland
Oh,
and everything in between. And I've, at Italy and Germany and France and the Netherlands and England, and then the Middle East, North Africa, the Horn of Africa. Yeah.
wow. The most important place you missed, Switzerland, right?
You know what? I did not get Switzerland. I did not get that far north.
Oh, yeah, but if you went to Holland and England,
I was nearly there,
yeah, I
but
know.
it's not
You went
quite.
around it. You went
Yes,
around it from Italy
exactly.
to Holland,
Yeah.
Germany. I mean, yeah. I'm joking, right? Because I'm Swiss. But that's interesting. So, but I would say that the train tracks you did through Europe and North Africa, that was as a civilian, not as a military guy, or?
Um, both.
Both.
I was in various countries. I was in Beirut, Lebanon, Turkey, and then in the military.
Yeah.
And then I also went back to Istanbul and took the train as a civilian.
Yeah. It's just because I met a few American soldiers which were stationed in Germany or Poland.
Yeah.
Especially in that time, right? After the Second World War and
Right.
the American bases in Germany. And I know my grandfather's brother, my great uncle or whatever you call that, he shared the last few years about all these American and Black American military dudes coming down to Switzerland, Basel, playing jazz and blues.
Yes.
And they went out in the city all nicely dressed. I'm like, what?
Yes.
My grandfather never told me that in the 40s, 50s, right?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's how the music came over, the rock and roll, the blues, the jazz, because of the live military guys. After the weekends, they were off. They could go somewhere.
Yeah. But there was a time frame, the 60s, where all the blues went to England, and that came back to America at that time with the Rolling Stones and the Beatles.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. And Jimi Hendrix, yes.
Yeah,
Can't forget Jimmy.
Yeah. No, and he got famous when he was in England, but he's American, right? So
drug,
alcohol problems because of both parents alcoholic. I listened to a story.
Yeah.
But it's coming back. So yeah, that's your threat. Sorry, guests, listeners, that we are going wide. I just had 8 hours of Tom in my ears today. And I try to ask new questions, so it's not kind of repeat and rinse, because you have a nice web page where all the podcasts are listed, so people can go nicely go through it. So now I have 9.5 years almost.
Yeah.
You're expelled because of uh, marijuana. You shared in some of the podcasts that drinking was kind of like a badge of honor in the military, like
Yeah.
as a SEAL. Like if you
Yeah.
cannot drink, you're not a real SEAL. You're not in the close group. You're
Yeah.
there, but you're not really.
Yeah.
Um, so for you now, kicked out at 18, your father says enough is enough. Kind of a break. Like now you're grown up, and you also talk a lot about rite of passage
Yeah.
and some white Indian Boy Scouts and the military and all these things. How important was those things for you? And was this 9.5 year SEALs and then being kicked out also a rite of passage in a way for
Yeah,
you?
because I had to restart life without any idea how to live as a civilian. Because remember, I left my parents' house, left high school at 18 and went in the military. So my whole, I'm at this time 29 years old, and my entire knowledge base from 18 to 29 is based off of the military and how it functions. And the military and the civilian world are two different animals. And so at 29, I ended up in a place that all my friends had been there. They never left. They evolved through and became what they were. And I was lost and seriously addicted. And I went home to my father where he said, "Oh, looks like you're back." And I see nothing has changed.
Oh, nice. Childhood
And
trauma.
and the deal was, if you want to come back here, you got to go fix your problem with drugs and alcohol because it's not working anymore. And so I ended up entering a recovery facility, a 90-day drug and alcohol recovery facility. And that was the beginning of a process of finding my way into the individual that sits here with you right now. So I had a career that I was proud of, that I earned, and I lost, and then was given a second opportunity through sobriety, but I found it by working with young people. My first job was an overnight counselor at an adolescent recovery facility, working with kids that were 13 to 17-year-old, all court appointed because they had drugs and alcohol and they'd gotten in trouble. And this is how they were being dealt with. And see, when I went through my 90-day program, it said, look, you got to remember, you got to go back into your childhood, and something there happened. I could not remember it. I could not see it. I did not want to go there. So I had about a year sober when I realized that if I don't do something, I'm going to use again, and it's not going to be pretty. So I decided I need to go and see that young little 14-year-old Tom to figure out what the hell happened. And I did that by taking a job as an overnight counselor, working with kids that had my issue that I was watching in real time as they came to terms with why did they use drugs? What were the issues? What were the horrible memories that they had experienced? And how do we help them move on into life in a way that they don't have to use drugs and alcohol? And by watching how they did it, that's how I learned it. But
Yeah, it's one thought I had is like you had like two to three etaps or episode or stages in
uh-huh.
life, like from 0 to 14,
Yep.
and then like 14 to 18, kind of like a short one,
And
if you
then
want to, and
18 to
then
29.
yeah, and then from there, and then you go back and see these kids, which they create memories they don't want to have. That's why they use drugs and alcohol, and then you can see in real time how
Yeah.
they suppress these memories because you have successfully suppressed the memories from childhood.
Right.
I heard you say you remember there was a good time as a child. I loved my father and mother, and my siblings, but I don't remember anything more.
Yeah.
Did anything change until now? Now you're 65. Have you been able to open up some memories of
Oh, yeah.
childhood? And
Oh, yeah. And as a matter of fact, if you, as an individual like myself that abuses drugs and alcohol, and you are an addict and an alcoholic, it's the only way that you stay sober, is you come to terms with all of the wreckage in your past, and you do it. And then you have to realize that it's some of those things are easily attained in, remembering. I could remember having issues when I had almost like 11 or 12 years of sobriety. I had to go back in and do work to figure out there were issues that I had not resolved that were now making themselves apparent. And then to help, the spirituality of this journey is awesome, because I had 32 years clean and sober, and I relapsed. I went back out for 2 weeks, and it was the worst experience that I had had probably in my entire life. And it was because I forgot what I was responsible for doing, making sure that I was grounded, that I was happy as an individual, because if I'm not those things, eventually I'm going to get loose and end up, which I did, smoking marijuana and having it just completely be a horrible experience. And that was 5 years ago. And it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me now.
How did you feel when it happened?
Suicidal.
Yeah, suicidal.
First time in my life that I've ever experienced suicide.
At 60, at age of 60.
Yes, at the age of 60.
And having done a master degree, I think you said, for being...
all of that. Bachelor's, master's, license, board certification, all of that.
Yeah, to work with kids and coaching and whatever.
Exactly.
And still you got there. So was the marijuana, cannabis, whatever you used, was it just not good anymore? Or were you in a life where you didn't want...
It was too good. When I was 14, that was, there was probably 10% THC in the marijuana. Today's, it's 100%. It was not fun. It was scary. I was hearing voices, and it's like, no, I don't want this, but I'm an addict, so I have to do it. And my saving grace was the two brothers. They were all in recovery, and they came and put it to me. They said, look, you're our older brother. We love you, but you either give it up right now and we're here for you, or you keep using, but don't come and see us. Don't come into our world. Don't come anywhere near us. And I was like, at 2 weeks, ready to, roll over and say, I'm done. And they guided and helped me back to what's sitting here with you.
Yeah, that's, I have a lot, also had depression, deeply suicidal. 2-3 times I was very close of just pulling the car over to one of these wind turbine transporting trucks. I knew that one cannot stop or just drive in the winter into the harbor. Already put up the rope on the playground, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Your kids come home 5 and 7 years old, or whatever, 3 and 5 old, and see their father hanged up. You cannot do that. On the other hand, I was working out, like strictly working out, making sure my body is healthy, strong, trying to avoid all bad stuff. I cannot drink alcohol and smoke and stuff. I mean, I tried marijuana like 1.5 years ago. It was terrible. I'm like, what the fuck? And I tried to use it as a spiritual, I said, okay, I'll take it with a friend. And I tried to meditate. I tried to really go in. Hopefully it opens up. No, it was terrible. I said, no, it doesn't work for me. No. Also drinking. I actually was thinking, listening to your show, like I got drunk 3 or 4 times in my life, but it was not fun for me. And I'm like, how can people get drunk? How can they get drunk? I only did it because I was around people and kind of did it to please them. And the next day I was like, what the fuck? And the 2 times, a lot of friends were around like, seriously, you drink? And they were really surprised. And I'm like, what the fuck? I cannot imagine, but I think I had a lot of past lives. I can feel that I'm like an old soul. I have done that. And my body and my soul says, look, you have tried that in other lives. Yeah. It just doesn't work. It went in and like out again. Yeah. And so for me, it was like really weird why I want to kill myself while I try to, eat healthy, conscious, work out, do all these things. This is like, it doesn't make sense. And I think that's why I never actually pulled the trigger, so to speak. I don't know for you how close you got. I mean, you say it was like 3 weeks or something. For me, it was a much longer period. I'm working on 10 years of working on this depression stuff.
You know what? It was a 2-week period, and I saw in my mind's eye a gun, a handgun, a very specific handgun. And I was over at a friend's house during that 2-week period, and up on the shelf in his kitchen was the exact gun that I saw in my mind. And
wow,
the connection was made so that I knew where I could come and get it. And
that's
yeah.
I mean, imagine that you visualized it, and there it was.
And there
Law
it
of
was.
attraction.
Yeah.
It's kind of like God showing you, like, hey, here it is. You
Here
can
it
do
is.
it.
Yes, you
Do
can.
you really want? Do you really want to do it?
Exactly. And it was, again, I can look back on it now, and it was such a spiritual experience because I had choice. It was there. I could have pulled the trigger. And for whatever reason, I ended up going to a beach where I grew up on, and I had the last of the marijuana, and I was going to spend the night, and then I was going to go and get the gun, and that was it. And being a veteran, between that beach and where the gun was the VA hospital. And as I passed by, something turned the wheel, and I went in and put myself in the emergency room. And being a clinical therapist, I know what questions I'm going to be asked. I know what to say to get out of it or to get real with it. And I got real with it. And they circled around and they did me right.
Yeah, it's like you were guided by a higher self, soul, something. Like for me, when I wanted to pull the trigger, I couldn't, right? There was something holding me back of doing the deed. I've also had an interview with an American gal which lived in, was it Australia or New Zealand at that time? And she filled herself up with all kind of medications, antidepressants, painkillers, with alcohol. And she never drank alcohol until to kill herself. She was somewhere off, and she's like, how does it feel? How do I know I'm dead? Oh, you will not breathe anymore. And then poof, she was out of the body. But she's still alive. That's why she can tell the story. So
yeah,
I had to interview her for the Depression to Expression podcast. I had like 24 episodes there until I realized it's the Oliver Schirach show and from Depression Expression. It's very similar questions. It's the path from how do you become creative, innovative? By being authentic with yourself, by finding yourself.
Yes.
How do you get out of depression into expression? By finding yourself, by letting go of the old, of the bad stuff.
And you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. So how was it in your life when you look back to now you remember your childhood? You said you have to come in terms with those things. You pushed that away, went to military. By being with 13 to 17-year-olds, you kind of reopened up. You worked on yourself. I heard you in some podcasts talk about stages. I have no idea. I've never been an alcoholic or drug abuser. I don't know if that's something to do with kind of, stopping the addiction. You talked about stage 5. You never made it, stage 4, 5. But by being with the kids, you saw them working on themselves, and somehow it helped you to do this step for real.
That's it. It's not stage, it's step. They were the steps.
Okay,
and
steps.
So it was that exact thing of how they came to terms with some of those, the 4th and 5th step is when you came to terms with the damage you did to others. That's yourself.
Where's that coming from? Is that from
That's an AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. When I went through, that's good. I'm glad we clarified. I went through a program that was a 12-step program. Alcoholics Anonymous is a 12-step program, step 1 to step 12. And you start out And you can go through those various times in your life for the rest of your life, like I did when in the 11th year, when things came up again and I redid the steps. So what happened was 5.5 years ago, I had stopped doing the steps. I had stopped going to meetings. I had stopped doing what I was supposed to be doing. And I believed that, you know what, look at me. I am a clinical therapist. I help save people. I work with kids. I do all this. And I made the mistake of thinking that it didn't apply to me because I was special. You know what? No, you're not. And it's what happens when an addict alcoholic doesn't stay real, doesn't stay honest, doesn't stay doing the program. It will come back and you will be at the mercy once again of whatever substance you chose. And that's where those kids, and I went back to school. I shared with you the bachelor's and master's license, board certificate. Looks great on the wall, but that's not why I got it. I was having kids come up to me and tell me their secrets, things that had happened to them in childhood. Things that had happened to them in childhood. And I was at a loss because that's not the things that I had any experience with. I had never seen that. You know, my childhood was my childhood. And so with that understanding, I decided, look, I need to go and get educated so that if I don't have their answer, I know where to go get it. And that's why I went back to school. That's why I got the education. It was not about me. It was about making sure that if a young person, male or female, came to me and said, this is what is happening, I can work with that. And I've been doing that professionally for the last 20 years.
Yeah. And then you had also the 12 step from the AA.
Yes.
As a tool to help you.
Yes.
Yeah, but did you also use that with others? Could you use that 12 step?
When I'm working with that certain type of individual, yes. But if you're not an addict alcoholic, you know, we call them normies. They're normal people. You know, people will go to me and goes, I don't understand how you can, you know, do drugs and just do them until you pass out. And I'm looking at you going, you know what? I don't understand how you can take one hit off the joint and put it in the ashtray. What are you, out of your mind? I'm going to burn my fingers before it's done. That's when it's done. And that's the difference. So I cannot relate to people who are not drug addicts and alcoholics in that way with 12 steps. From a clinical standpoint, cognitive behavioral is a therapy that I use that works wonders, that has an effect on people with depression and anxiety. I also have a specialty with folks that got PTSD, which is called eye movement desensitization reprocessing, EMDR.
Oh, I heard of that. Yeah. So you do that.
Those are my tools for people who are not addicts and alcoholics.
Okay. I went through a cognitive training and then metacognitive. And I got also needles, NADA, you know, the 5 needles in the ears, which didn't do like big effect. I've heard other people, I have ADHD, but ADHD is just, it's not a sickness. It's just a way of being and we are just labeled.
It's your thought process.
Yeah, but if I'm in the right environment and do the right things in the right rhythm, I have no issues.
Yes.
As long as we are pushed into a certain rhythm, which is not natural for us, and then we're called sick.
Yes.
And anyway, but I've heard some people with ADHD, they have always these voices and they were like, boom, silence after putting 5 needles in their ears. I'm like, okay. But for me, I got it like 13 months. I was gliding through the system here and there. It was just prolonged. I don't know, the universe just made sure like a new one, which gives it. So I was sliding into it and it was moved to another facility. Then they added mindfulness to it. And then suddenly I looked at it like more than a year I've been there and I should have gotten 3 months.
Right.
But I got through this one therapist from the commune, from the city. she helped me more because she had also depression. And she said she saw her essence. She got like a deep meditation and saw herself, her essence.
Yeah.
And when she looked at me, she really could see all these layers of protection that I put up. And many people which are grounded, which are centered in themselves, they can see those layers I have, behavioral, whatever it is. And so for me, she knew it will be years for me to work on all these protection layers.
Yeah.
And so I did cognitive behavior, change the negative words to positive. My mom is, okay, choose the positive. My father is, my sister is, my ex, my wife, my parents of my wife, Denmark, Switzerland, whatever, right? And like have a book full of these different, and then exchange with positive. And then she came a year later and said metacognitive. She was not allowed to use it because she was not finished with certified, but she was already knowing it works better because in her life it worked better. And the metacognitive was more like the thought is the problem, not negative or positive. It's overthinking, which why scientists and artists normally are more prone to anxiety and depression because they overthink. They try to solve the problem. I have this art piece. How can I do it? Okay, I look at it this way. And then you just keep on thinking and thinking.
Yes.
Eventually it gets negative. And then people say, oh, it's a negative thought. So you're also use metacognitive or only the cognitive?
No, I just use the cognitive behavioral. And what the metacognitive that you're talking about?
Yeah.
I had to go back to school for EMDR. You can't just read a book and do that. As a matter of fact, I went back to school, got the credential, and then volunteered for 2 years every Sunday or every other Sunday at a first responders. So this would be law enforcement, fire, anybody that's a first responder that is in their job and is going to get fired because the issues that they're having, they're not functioning correctly. And the job has put up with. Yeah. And so this is the last step for them. It's a 1 week long retreat. And so I went for 1 day to volunteer and practice my EMDR for 2 years before I actually tried to do it professionally. I was learning there, not charging, was volunteering, was giving it to learn how to do it, because these things that you're talking about, you need to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to do some damage.
Yes, I assume. And but some people have intuition and they know how to guide it.
Exactly.
Some people just have this empathy and they just know exactly intuitively what to do. But I also know I'm going to an Ayurvedic yoga teacher here, and so I'm looking into Ayurveda and this ancient knowledge, and I can see they have knowledge we just start to scratch to understand.
The other one too is Kundalini.
Yeah, but that's an awakening part.
Yeah. So, but all of that is, I don't do that professionally. I do that personally.
Yeah, but careful with the Kundalini.
I didn't do it because there was something just not right that wasn't working, but I remember that one.
Yeah, because there's a danger in opening up some skills and gifts.
Yeah.
The 90% of garbage of DNA. No, these are gifts or soul or whatever it is. It's not garbage. Why would the body create 90% garbage?
You know what? Yeah, exactly. That garbage DNA, no, you just don't know what it is, and be careful awakening it.
Exactly. And Kundalini, I've had another interview of an American woman half a year ago, and she was forcefully put into Kundalini awakening by someone which had it before, so he knew what happens. So when it happened to her, she didn't go into details. I can only imagine must have been sexual. Because that's but she says it's crazy when you go through a real Kundalini awakening, a physical, you feel dying. And I've also heard that in other podcasts, guys meditating, but they did meditation for years, 5 years, 10 years. They knew the theory, they did the oms and the mantras and the chanting, so they kind of have been preparing mentally of Brahma, the oneness, that we are one. We just seem separated because otherwise the one cannot recognize itself. So they kind of had this mental knowledge. And then they're just like the heart rate goes up to 280. You should be dying by that. This energy flow going up and down and all these things. So if you're not ready for these things, don't force it. And Wim Hof is basically forcing people to have a Kundalini awakening, not knowing what the fuck he's doing with his breath work.
Yeah.
And just a few weeks ago, I saw a podcast about all his anger issues we don't know about, and things start to make sense, right? Because what he's teaching is ancient breath work. How can you patent ancient breath work, which is 10,000 years old? How can you make money on this in this scale as he's doing it? And so anything with spiritual awakening, I think you're ready. And your soul said, no, there's blockages in you. If we open you up like that, this can go backfiring, drug addiction again, alcohol, whatever, traumata, suicide. We don't know, right? Well, I know we have like 4 or 5 minutes before you have some clients waiting for you.
Yes.
And I know I went to left and right. It's kind of like touching, and I feel I got information out of you I haven't heard from other podcasts in a different way. And I really want to go deeper with you. And so just to summarize it up, we see a man which suppressed his memories, got drug addicted, alcohol addicted, military, the whole thing blew up, got into youth where it was reflecting back to him, helping himself to open up to those places, a 12-step AA program where you then could integrate the 4th and 5th step, really looking at your past and getting terms of it.
One. You got it.
Did I understand it right? But I had some other podcasts to listen to, so
you hit that right. The wording was perfect.
So you got that. So you could integrate and let go. So you were not addicted to any substances because you were happy and grounded. You were getting more authentic with yourself, truthful. You let go of that. At 60, you hit the fan again. You got the depression. You got the suicide thoughts.
Big time.
And big time. Because the soul said, oh, you didn't learn it. But through this, you can use that when you work with clients, when you work with youth, and help them because you have been there. You have experienced it. You have felt it. So it's like your life has prepared you to be a helper for others, to guide through life, come in terms with themselves, be authentic, and not bullshit themselves and others. Now I'm trying to help a 19-year-old, and he told me he's panicking. The world is watching him. The Secret Service is watching him, and I'm like, what is going on? Until he opened up to me. I'm not naming names. He knows if he listens to that episode. I hope I'm not offending him in any way. But he opened up the last time I met him a few days ago. He says, I've been manipulating others to get what I want. Does that ring a bell for you?
Actually, that's pretty insightful that you actually recognize that's what you're doing. That's, most people don't recognize that they do that. So my first thought is there's something that you can work with there because he's aware. Now, does it bother him or is it something that he enjoys?
No, it's like what I think. I realize that's what's reflecting back from the outside. Oh, he thinks people are observing him because he thinks differently. Yeah. So the Secret Service has an eye on him because he's different, and so they have to keep him under control. The school, whatever. So he has this paranoia. So I was just thinking, if you had something similar, being alcohol addicted and marijuana, did you feel that you manipulated people so you get what you needed, or you never had that?
Yeah, but the manipulation came from using drugs and alcohol when you don't have any. You're going to manipulate to get them. And that in there lies the damage you do to so many people. Because the first people you do this to are your family. And then when the family is done with you, you go to your friends and you do it to your friends. And then it ends up with strangers. And at some point, you're going to end up in jail, dead, or broken.
Yeah. And that was then you're not authentic to yourself because you lie to yourself, lying to others. And that was kind of probably part of your step 4 and 5 to come in terms with your past. Or do I get...
Yeah, no. It's being honest and truthful and acknowledging and then accepting. And then when is possible, go and make an amends. Say you're sorry. Because the freedom comes when you go and man up for me. I went and made the amends to people that there were certain people that I wasn't going to go make the amends to because I would have gotten arrested. I
shit.
stole things, but this isn't what they're asking you to do. What I did was I ended up adding up all the money that was the illegal manipulation. And for the first 2 years of my sobriety, $100 a month, and I ended up paying $10,000 over about like 10-year period of sending the money without my name. I was giving it to the universe because I wasn't going to give it to the person that I actually had done harm to because I would have gotten arrested. But I needed to financially pay that money back, and that's how I did it.
Wow, yeah, the universe. So these people you were stealing from, perhaps they did something else, right? Karma. So that's why you were stealing from them. But
However,
you kind of pay back. Yeah, wow, I could go like for another 45 minutes, 1 hour. But we have to stop here because your clients will not
but
be
here's
happy.
the thing is, let's do this again. I want to give you the time because you go, and I don't think you got to where you wanted to go. You got
I don't know where I want to go. I'm just curious.
But we did not talk about Honor Bound Academy, the rite of passage that I created, the 2 books. The last book I wrote about is about what's happening in this country right now. And I pointed where the problem is. And so we didn't even touch those.
So this is a teaser episode.
Yeah, let it be a teaser.
Where can people find you?
TheHonorBoundAcademy.org, all lowercase, THE, honorboundacademy.org is my website that has all my platforms on it, that has all my research on it, that has who I am, what I am. Everything you want to know is on that site, thehonorboundacademy.org. And from there, you can pursue all the avenues that lead back to me.
Okay, we'll also put a link to the books and to the other podcast episodes because you have a nice list.
Excellent.
So thank you so far. Thank you, listeners. Like, share, comment, give it to people you think they need it. Thank you.